you, Mike. Our next speaker, Jonathan Tanaka, is a private wealth advisor who was mentored by his father, Yasui Clifford Tanaka, the first Japanese-American registered stockbroker. Well, back in September of last year, Jonathan and I went to lunch. He told me that year was Union Church's 100th anniversary. He brought books, photos, and a historical letter dated March 10th, 1923. He thought maybe Little Tokyo Historical Society should do some sort of event. Well, that's where the seed for this whole event came from. And I'd like to bring up Jonathan Tanaka now to share the fascinating history of this church that he shared that day.
Thank you, Mia. Good afternoon. We are here to celebrate the 101st anniversary of the Japanese Union Church building and its past, present, and future use. I am honored to represent the Little Tokyo Historical Society to share with you how and why this was built. This building was constructed in 1923, 5 years before the iconic Los Angeles City Hall that you can view from this site. And 1 year later, so 100 years ago, almost to the day, a church thank you letter to the Japanese community was written. Reverend Gichi Tanaka became a Christian in the 1880s in Gunma-ken, Japan. At the turn of the century, he went on 2 missionary journeys to Maui, Hawaii. He established and built the Iao Congregational Church in Wailuku, Maui. Gichi traveled to Los Angeles in 1911 after his missionary work in Maui ended. And my grandfather, Gichi's nephew, Chikashi Tanaka, joined Gichi in Maui and followed him to Los Angeles. The Japanese Union Church was built in 1923 after 3 Christian churches merged in 1918, led by its first pastor, which was Reverend Gichi Tanaka. My grandfather, Chikashi Tanaka, was one of the first treasurers of the church. More than $100,000 was raised to build this church. $100,000 in 1923 would be worth $1.75 million in today's dollars. But as you can imagine, I'm sure it would cost a lot more to build this today. Reverend Gichi Tanaka retired to Japan in 1925, and he published his book, The Crucible of Trials and Tribulations. My sister Tina Tanaka has this original copy. I knew very little about the old Japanese Union Church and my Tanaka family's history in Little Tokyo when my father passed away. However, Gichi Tanaka's great-grandson, Hiroshi Matsubara, delivered photocopies of an original Gichi Tanaka book to my sister. Tina and I felt as if we just discovered a treasure chest of gold. Tina found a translator who would translate the book into English from old Meiji Japanese language. This is what that book looks like today. By the way, Gichi Tanaka's great-great-granddaughter and Hiroshi Matsubara's daughter, Anna Matsubara, is here today. Back to the book. There are only 2 photos in the original book. A photo of the Iao Christian Church in Maui and this church building. We added about 80 photos and documents from my grandfather Chikashi Tanaka's studio collection into the English version book, which was then published in 2005. There are 2 chapters in the book about the Japanese Union Church, 1 on the merging of churches, and 2 building God's house, this building. Is anyone game for a cornerstone removal project? Reverend Gichi Tanaka wrote in this book, "We sealed in the cornerstone the history of the merging of the churches and all the documents regarding the construction, along with the names of ministers, officers, and committee members." So someday soon, I hope we can take a look inside the cornerstone. My grandfather, Chikashi Tanaka, was a prominent photographer before World War II. He had a photo mart where Just Cafe is right over there in the San Pedro Firm building. And he had a Tanaka studio in the Kawasaki building just around the corner on 1st Street North. He could not reopen his studio after returning from internment camp. But his studio collection and the Gichi Tanaka book have been a great source of information for learning about the history of the Japanese Union Church and 5 generations of the Tanaka family in Little Tokyo. A brochure with 3 floor plans for the church building designed by H.M. Patterson is in my grandfather's collection. The second floor plan shows the auditorium and sanctuary where Sunday worship services were to be held weekly and special events such as wedding ceremonies. A quick shout out to longtime members of Union Church and the Little Tokyo Historical Society, Tad and Atsuko Kota. Their wedding was held here on June 23rd, 1957. Tad and Atsuko. The basement floor plan confirms that the social hall would also be a gymnasium and basketball court. It was the first of its kind in Little Tokyo, but basketball players could not drive to the basket because the baseline was 2 feet away from the wall. LTHS, the Little Tokyo Historical Society, commissioned artist Mike Saijo to create 5 large posters utilizing photos and documents from the Chikashi Tanaka Studio collection. They are displayed here in the courtyard. You may view an original Gichi Tanaka book at the table afterwards, buy an English translated book, and or pick up a commemorative booklet at the LTHS table after the program. My good friend Cindy Abrams is a 10-year Little Tokyo Historical Society member, serving as board secretary. She has ties through marriage to the Little Tokyo community. Cindy will now read a portion of the Gichi Tanaka Japanese Union Church thank you letter to the Japanese community written 100 years ago.